Yeah, it's about the bag with the triple single crew. We got Ronnie, Doc, Antonio, the real deal too. They coming and dropping knowledge, you know that they get to work. You know that triple single cover Bay Area sports. You know I'm coming hard, I don't feel like I'm in a hurry. Like number 30, I really got the range like Stephen Curry. Get a couple rings.
On everybody, so glad to have you guys back for the triple single crew. Man, we had a big week. Free agency, basketball, we got a lot to get into, but for the first topic here today, we're going to talk about the Dubs, man. They're playing right now. I think they're still blowing out the Rockets.
Yep.
So yeah, thanks, Doc. So yeah, fellas, I just want to talk about, some interesting things coming out of the break, as far as, Steve Kerr and his decisions to go with to sort of bench Wiseman, not sort of, basically bench him for missing the COVID test, but really, which by the way, they get like 3 COVID tests a day, according to Draymond. So that's excessive for any of us that have had to do the COVID test. I know I took it, and not because I was sick, but just had to take it. And so it's pretty excessive, man. 3 times a day. So him missing one, I didn't think it was worth benching, but let's get into not that, but let's get into today. Is Kerr the kind of coach that you feel, even with all the titles, is he the coach that you feel is the right guy moving forward with a young roster like the Dubs? What do you think, Doc?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm torn. I think on paper, with what we know about Steve Kerr, from his time as a player, his time as on the broadcasting crew, his time as the Golden State Warriors coach, you would think he'd be the perfect guy to lead a young group of guys, because the one thing that I can always confidently say is that Steve Kerr is a great communicator, right? He's really great with his words. He's really great at kind of giving you the silver lining, even during tough times. I know there's been video clips of him telling Steph Curry, like, look, you might be 1 for 12, but look at your plus minus. Like, you being on the court, you are impacting the game in a positive way, and I need you not to forget that, right? So he's really great at just kind of providing that positivity. And yet, for some reason, I think this season I found myself wondering, is Steve Kerr the guy that's going to lead the Warriors back to that just competitiveness within their team, right? Making the playoffs, actually competing for championships. And the reason why I say that is because I also think Steve Kerr can be a little bit stubborn with his beliefs, whether it's his offensive system, whether it's his rotations and the way that minutes are distributed. I know there's obviously some contribution from players and them sharing what they believe is best for them, but I just feel like he's not evolving in the way that I think we've seen some other coaches do. I don't know if maybe some of it, and this could be another conversation or segment, is just Bob Myers not bringing in the right players for Steve Kerr to play. But just this season, I found myself wondering that a lot more than I'd want to.
Yeah, it's a good call.
I like to add on to that. I watched some games, past couple weeks. I remember the Portland game that was on ESPN. The whole game plan double Damian Lillard. And then the last possession, you leave I believe it was Kent Bazemore.
Yep.
With Lillard one-on-one, step back, hit the 3. Like, what you were doing the first 3 quarters in the last possession was working, but then the most important possession, it's like a one-on-one. So, definitely, you question like some of his decision making, but I truly believe that, once, like, said before, just healthy team, he'll be solid. But, he's been through it all, he's played in the league, he's just been through it all. And I think he'll be a solid coach, once his full team gets healthy. But
yeah, something else just add quickly to the example that you gave, Ronnie, is that CJ McCollum wasn't even playing, right? And so maybe an audience member that's watching might be like, well, of course they might have left Dame one-on-one. He had CJ to pass it to. He didn't. Dame was literally probably the only guy that was going to hit a game-winning shot at that point of the game. And so that is an example, right? Just his decision-making. I think sometimes him not calling timeouts. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to bag, but I just want to give other examples, especially since Ronnie gave one. Sometimes he doesn't call timeouts to kind of stop the momentum of other teams. And again, just a substitution. Sometimes he leaves his bench out there a lot longer than you'd hope for in some winnable games, right? And then it comes to cost us at the end. We lose by 3 or 4 points, and you just wonder if Steph would have been brought in a minute or two early, would that have changed the outcome of the game?
Yeah, I it's funny for me. I've been kind of a fan of his and the idea of ball movement. I like that, and his idea of let's play defense first, and defense leads to offense. So those concepts I totally agree with. And I believe that's what leads to winning. And that's what he got from Popovich and the Spurs. But I think you're right. You have actually made me kind of question him a little bit more and analyze him in a different way. And I kind of see what you're talking about. There are times when we're down by 10 with, let's say, 7.5 or 8 minutes to go in the second quarter. And I'm thinking, well, this is a good time to bring Steph in before it gets to 15.
Yep.
Because if it gets to 15, the game is over, especially against like the Lakers.
Yep.
And to me, and who knows, maybe you still don't win. But my thinking is, like, when you're talking about rotations with me a lot, we text a lot about this stuff. For those of you guys in the audience that don't know, we are always texting back and forth, like, what's going on here during the game?
Yep.
And that's something to me that I started looking at, and I agree. I would do it differently, because you're going to play Steph the same amount of minutes regardless, but it's about how you bring the guy back when you know the game isn't always over in the fourth. The game might be over in the middle of the second quarter.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And so that's one thing. And I agree with you, Ronnie. I think in that situation, again, even the most basic kind of rookie coach would say double that guy, because he's not going to get rid of the ball.
Yeah.
Let's just stop. And even if he does, I don't care who else on their team. I don't even know who's playing anymore. That's a shooter on their team, because they keep rotating other guys other than him and CJ. I don't care. Miles Leonard. I'm just going to start saying a bunch of Blazers that, I don't care who else. Let them beat me.
Yeah.
I will lose to PJ Tuckers of the world, who are just these great role players, but I don't want to lose to Michael Jordan. I don't want to lose to, I'm not to compare, but I'm just saying, like, I don't want to lose to the guy that wants the ball and is like I said, the only one that can make that shot in that situation. I'm not losing to that guy.
And to be fair, right, I know you're not trying to compare to Michael Jordan, but Dame literally has Dame time. Like, there is a saying, he has a reputation. Like, he just came out of the All-Star game where him and Steph Curry hit some half-court shots. Like, clearly, this is not a guy that you want with the ball in his hands when the game's on the line. And some players that maybe he could have passed it to is Anthony Simons, who I know actually has been shooting the ball really well. Gary Trent Jr. is also a really good shooter on that team. Robert Covington. But you let those guys beat you. Like, if that's the guy that beats you, you say, you know what, guys, it wasn't Dame, right? It wasn't Dame. We stuck to our game plan, thick and thin, and we'll live with the outcome. Something else that just comes to mind, right, as we're continuing to have this conversation is, I believe the reason why this has come up a lot for me is because I've had to take a step back and wonder, is Steve Kerr the reason why we've been winning, or has the product of having a KD, a Clay, a Draymond, a Curry the reason why Steve Kerr has been winning, right? Does the ball movement work when you don't have all of those Hall of Fame, all-star level type pieces on the court, right? And I think it's fair to ask. And in my opinion, the defense is actually, after the first 2 years, 2015, they did really great. In 2016, I think they held it up still when they won those 73 games. After that, I think the defense has honestly started to it's been more of a reputation than an actual product. They'll step up during really big games, but they'll also play down to the competition. It's not a consistent defense, and it hasn't been one for a while. When they had KD, they could just outscore a team whenever they wanted to. And so, shout out to Mark Jackson, because although I wasn't the biggest fan of his, I know he's the reason. He set the foundation for that defensive reputation that we have.
Yeah, and look, let's be honest here. When you have Draymond Green, who to me is one of the greatest defenders we've ever had, because he can dissect a play. And actually, I think somebody said the other day, he's the best on like 2-on-1 or 3-on-1 situations in the league, which is pretty insane, because you have 3-on-1 and you don't get a dunk. That's crazy. And so, when you have Draymond on the floor, our field goal percentage against is like second, I think, in the league. But when he's not on the floor, it's horrible. So to your point, if he doesn't have all the pieces in place, he's much more of a mediocre coach, I think, when he doesn't have all those pieces. Having said all that, I still think he's not that mediocre. I think he's ultimately a good coach who can make adjustments. I just think he gets in his own way in some of the same ways that Draymond does. Like Draymond cost us that Charlotte. To me, Kerr cost us one game and Draymond cost us one game, at least.
Yeah.
For sure, the Portland game, because he should have double teamed Dame. If he misses there, we win. And then Draymond cost us that Charlotte game because he got the second tee, right? So those are two games. So at the end of a season, when you're trying to get into the playoffs and squeeze in, it's a big deal. So I think that's why, just for the listeners and for the viewers out there, this is why we talk about these things, because there is some relevance, 1 or 2 games here and there, they do make a difference. So I get what you mean.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on your end, Ronnie? Again, as someone that's been watching the games really closely recently.
Yeah, I mean, like you both said before, they don't come up, like they don't show out when they're nationally televised games like that Laker game.
Yeah.
They can get close within the first quarter, but then I don't even know what happened right after that. They just started, blowing up. But no, I just think, like Will said, or the real deal, my bad.
That's cool.
Once they get all the pieces back, that's when he'll be a solid coach. But I still feel like, his experience and his impact, playing in the NBA, being the coach for that long, I think, he'll be just fine, just.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know if he'll ever be Popovich or
Yeah.
who is. It's like right now, who's ever going to be Belichick and all these
Yeah.
guys, who knows? But if he can be solid and then you get the pieces back together, in the NBA, you don't need coaches to always be Hall of Fame to win. You just need them to push the buttons when they need to be pushed. And he's shown, I think, enough, especially out of timeouts and stuff like that, where I do like that he has really good out of bounds plays. He understands that. He understands the need for sometimes to call timeout when they need energy. I just think this season he hasn't been as sharp as he needs to be and as he will need to be going forward when we have the full deck.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe me questioning Steve Kerr was the moment that he kept playing Brad Wanamaker. So that may be the root of my my concerns and my doubts. But all jokes aside, I do still believe Steve Kerr is the coach for as long as Steph Curry's on the team. I think they might even retire together if possible, right? If their health permits it, because I know Steve Kerr has also dealt with a lot of health issues. But I just want to see him definitely just continue to evolve as a coach, not be afraid to try new things, not be afraid to, go off of just his tendencies. And see what works, right? I mean, as you start to get these new players and these new pieces, you got to play to their strengths, right? And it might not always be just the ball movement, as we've seen with this version of our team. The 3-point shooting isn't that great, so let's incorporate more cutting. Let's incorporate more pick and rolls, right? Let's just get creative so that way the defenses can't just hone in on one thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and let's give credit too, real quick, to him and Bob Myers for the fact that they did send Poole back down. And like I told you, Poole came back. I mean, he's better. He's a better slasher right now. I don't know how much better he is from 3, but he's playing with a lot more confidence. Nico did need to go down for a little bit, and his 3 ball is way better. His handling was always there, but the 3 ball wasn't. So I do want to give them that credit because I think they did bring them up. Again, the season was pretty much over. They're going to the playoffs. The Santa Cruz Warriors were. Yep. So, but still, it was, they're like, you know what? Let's let him play the full string down in Orlando. We bring up Nico and we bring up Poole, and, it is paying dividends. My last quick thing, though, on Kerr, I know he's 19 years old, but you need to play James Wiseman when he's healthy. If he's healthy, like I know tonight, him and Pascal had to be in the protocol, so he couldn't go, but he's your center. You do not have a backup center. You don't. So if he's healthy and he's good to go, right? You can't just ball with Looney out there. You can't do it. And that's going to be another question going forward is, when you get Marquise Chris and all these guys back, but if he's healthy, play the kid. He's going to develop regardless of what happens this year. You need him to develop. So I hope we don't see any more weird benchings and things like that. I'm sure he would have just rather you find him, but he needs to develop. He needs to be on the court. So
yeah, last thing I'll say on that is I believe there's an article that came out. I don't know how much credibility it had, but it did say that there seems to be some attention within the organization and as it pertains to Wiseman minutes and why he's not playing more, right? And I think it goes to the fact that you can look at LaMelo's minutes and Anthony Edwards' minutes, and those have increased while Wiseman's haven't in the same way, right? And so as you're talking about the number 2 pick overall, especially on a team that's not going to win the championship. I mean, if we had a championship window this year, then slow his development as slow as you need to. But like you said, we don't have a backup center. We actually don't have a center outside of Wiseman. So you need to play him. You need to play him through thick and thin, whether he fouls out, no matter what mistakes he makes. You need to play the kid.
Agreed.
All that, he's 19, he's still young, he's going to develop, he's not at full potential. So, if, obviously, hopefully, they won't, not hopefully, but, they probably won't win it this year. So just try and develop him as much as you possibly can. So, once he's fully developed, with Clay coming back, that's gonna be a scary starting five. So
Yeah, agreed.
absolutely.
All right, fellas. With that, please leave your thoughts down below. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at TSC Bay Area. And make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks,
See you next time.
everybody.
Yeah, it's by the bag with the triple single crew. We got Ronnie, Doc, Antonio, the real deal too. They coming and dropping knowledge, you know.